Hi dear students, welcome to online classes, Mangalore University, digital learning. Today I'm talking about Shakespearean poems, sonnets, themes and structure. See this paper, paper 5, Shakespeare is prescribed for BA, English optional students, Mangalore University. Now, we will have a discussion about critical evaluation of structure and themes of sonnets in this particular session. So, dear students, as we have known that Shakespeare is known for his wonderful sonnets and a beautiful creation and such a beautiful themes and structures he has been introduced in his various sonnets. As I mentioned, 154 sonnets. It is believed that Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. Many believe Shakespearean sonnets are addressed to two different people he may have known. As we have discussed pretty clearly in our earlier sessions, his sonnets are addressed to two different people. One is Dark Lady and the other one is a young man. The first 126 sonnets seem to be speaking to a young man with whom Shakespeare was very close. And Shakespearean sonnets are characterized for following the same structure in every poem. Both of them have three quatrains. See, every sonnet, you will have a look at the classification of Shakespearean sonnets, as we have discussed in our earlier sessions. Both of them have three quatrains and a couplet. They are written in a iambic pentameter. All Shakespearean sonnets have written in iambic pentameter. The rhyme scheme of this quatrain is A B A B C D C D E F E F G G, and in the quatrains the main theme is portrayed, and then in the couplet there is a summary of the sonnet or a change of ideas you will see in couplet. Shakespeare gives a proper conclusion in his couplets. Shakespearean sonnets stand out for the use of different devices, vocabulary and images. And in sonnet 18, one such example is that the use of rhetorical personal pronouns such as thee, you, thee means you, for example, thou means you again, can be seen to refer to the fair youth. But that this is the thee in sonnet 18 is nothing but a fair youth, the young, the young man. The sonnet opens with a rhetorical question: shall I compare to thee to a summer's day? It can be a summary of what the poem is about, a comparison between the beloved and a summary, summer's day. Time is important in this particular poem. As we have discussed a lot of themes and a lot of structures and beautiful, um, critical overview of Shakespearean sonnets, he talks about the ravage of time. Shakespearean sonnets open with an earnest plea from the narrator to the fair lord, beginning him to find a woman to bear his child, so that his beauty might be preserved for the prosperity. Look at that. He wanted the woman should produce the children. I mean, with that, he wanted to have that beauty in his siblings. The poet characterizes time as a dimension of suffering, urging the fair lord to break with him, if ever now, give not a windy night a rainy morrow. Shakespeare is in fact the narrator of the sonnets in all these situations. Again, one more theme you have to observe in Shakespearean sonnets: platonic love versus carnal lust. You see, this is always seen in most of his sonnets. The divide between the fair lord sonnets and the dark lady sonnets is also a divide between two forms of interpersonal attraction. See, there is an attraction and physical, lust you could able to see in the presence of most of his sonnets. While the narrator of the sonnets is clearly infatuated with both the fair lord and the dark lady, the language he uses to describe these infatuations shows them to be of desperate nature. Look at that. The infatuations have seen most of his Shakespearean sonnets. The lack of explicit sexual imagery in the Fair Lord sonnets has led most scholars to characterize this infatuation as an example of platonic love. See, what Shakespeare considers himself a platonic love is nothing but the kind of infatuation he is having with the woman. As we have moved forward with the themes, selfishness and greed will be there in his sonnets. With the appearance of the themes of the selfishness and greed are prevalent throughout the sonnets as a whole, emerging most perceptibly in the narrator's hypocritical expectation of faithfulness from the fair lord and the dark lady. The fair lad as well as the dark lady is presenting in most of his sonnets. The poet seems at times to advance a double standard on the issue of faithfulness. He is unfaithful himself, yet he condemns, he is even surprised by the unfaithfulness of others. Self-deprecation is there and inadequacy. It is a kind of a language frequently appears regarding the poet's various inadequacies, in particular his ability to keep his fair lord's interest. In sonnet 76, the poet basically calls himself a bore. He begins, why is my verse so barren of new pride, so far from variation or quick change? His expressions of inadequacy reach a pinnacle in the rival poet sonnets, where they transform into pathetic outbursts of jealousy, homoerotic desire. This is where one of the beautiful themes you could see in the sonnets of Shakespeare. Although a fair number of scholars argue that the sonnets do not reflect any intimation of homosexual desires, I mean, whatsoever on the part of the narrator, others find sonnets 1 to 126 rife with homoerotic undertones, at times appearing as explicit. See, some of the critics have observed that homoerotic, the kind of a relationship with the young man that is there from sonnet 1 to 126, expressions, explicit expressions of the narrator's love for the fair lord. Fair lord is nothing but a young man, who is supposed to be Shakespeare's best friend. Unlike the sonnets featuring the Dark Lady 127 to 154, the rest of the sonnets, the Fair Lord sonnets contain no explicit reference to sexual desire. And financial bondage, you can see in the sonnets of Shakespeare. Throughout the sonnets, there is a considerable imagery of financial debt and obligation, bondage, and transaction. Many scholars are convinced that the fair lord is not only the object of the poet's affection, love, but also his financial benefactor. Look at that. He is providing lot of financial benefits to the poet Shakespeare. That is the reason why he relied and he believed and he dedicated sonnets from 1 to 126 to the fair lord, so-called young man. Such a speculation has led to the identification of the fair lord with the begetter of the sonnets, who is none other than Mr. W.H. Although this argument is difficult to prove, it certainly has its own merits. So now, come to the conclusion. There are a lot of things are there to discuss about the Shakespearean sonnets. Reckoning with the themes, he dealt with a lot of important things, like for example, sexuality and the kind of a relationship he is having with a young man as well as a dark lady, and financial commitments, and so many important factors which he committed himself throughout the sonnet writing from 1 to 154. The sonnets are traditionally divided into two major groups, as we have seen: the fair lord sonnets from 1 to 126 and the dark lady sonnets 127 to 154. The fair lord sonnets explore the narrator's consuming infatuation with a young and beautiful man, while the Dark Lady sonnets engage his lustful desire for a woman who is not his wife. See, she is not supposed to be an exact wife of William Shakespeare, but he is having a kind of a lust desire with that woman. He expresses in these sonnets from 127 to 154. The narrator is tormented as he struggles to reconcile the uncontrollable urges of his heart with his mind's better judgment, all the while in a desperate race against time. So, with this, I conclude this session. My dear students, I hope you enjoyed this session. You learned a lot of themes, structure, and the quality of Shakespearean sonnets, and how the sonnets were divided, and in what context he addressed to the sonnets with different objectives as well as subjectives in nature. I hope you understood the session pretty clearly. Thank you very much. Happy reading. Stay safe.